We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Emily Mithner, and I'm the CEO and founder of FindSpark. And on behalf of our team and LIM College, we'd like to welcome you to our second full-day Fashion Career Conference. First, huge round of applause to you all for being here early on a Saturday morning. You're all amazing. So, FindSpark, for those of you who are new, FindSpark is a community dedicated to your career success. And we're really excited to be partnering with LIM College today and their Career Center, which puts in so much effort to making sure that their students are also set up for career success. I've had the pleasure of being an adjunct professor here since the fall, and it's truly amazing to be able to teach a class where I get to show them how to use LinkedIn, how to fix their resume, and also they're getting credit for being here at this event. How cool is that, right? So just a show of hands, for how many of you is this your first FindSpark event? Just raise your hand high. Okay, now high five someone next to you new. Yeah! A lot of new folks today. So we do all sorts of programs all throughout the year, but our conferences are one of our favorite ways to get you one step closer to your dream career through the people you're meeting and the things that you learn. We've done tons and tons of programs with tons of people. This is our 9th conference installment, and we're all about connecting you with not only amazing speakers who you'll get to meet today, but also to each other. Because it's really important to remember that the people who are sitting next to you, your peers, people you meet at events, your classmates, these are folks who are going to be in your network forever, so it's of course just as important to meet as many people and attendees as possible today as well. So today is actually going to be a little overwhelming, I will admit, right? It's a long day. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be a really fun day. So something that I always like to start with are just a few tips to kind of get you in the right mindset for today. And before I even get into those tips, I want to do just a 30-second meditation. I'm going to get a little goofy. So if everyone just closes their eyes, just for a second, bear with me. So close your eyes and think of a time where you were able to help someone in their career. So a time where you were able to make a connection for a classmate to an internship or a job, whether that was directly through someone you knew, through a job link, sometime where you were able to give feedback on a social media platform. And now think about a time when somebody helped you. So a professor, a mentor, where somebody gave you career advice, pointed you in the right direction. So just take a minute to think about how amazing that felt to help someone else and to be helped. And really for today, I'd like you to just channel that energy, channel that goodwill, because really today, and now you can open your eyes, is all about helping each other. And our speakers are so excited to be here to help you. And I hope you're also all excited to help each other as well. So now on to some of our big tips. So number one is to be open. A big part of the FindSpark mission is to expose you to all the variety of career options that are out there. One of the reasons that I started FindSpark is because I found that depending on your school, your major, your friends, your family, a lot of times you're also often fed the same path. Well, this is what you have to do, or this is the only thing you can do. And we really want today to expose you to people who have been through every sort of walk of life, who work at all different types of companies, and who have had straight paths, zigzag paths, to where they are now. So be open to the speakers, be open to the different topics, and really embrace all the diversity of people and things that you'll hear today. The next thing is to be present. So you might have noticed through all the amazing emails you've been given through Christina, which Christina's right there, so you can finally put a face to a name. We are huge fans of using social media to network as well, right? So hopefully you've joined our app, you've sent out a tweet or an Instagram. You can take a picture of me if you haven't yet, if you need something to post. But you are lucky. You are here today. You're here in person. You are in the best city in the world, arguably. I'm biased. But so take advantage of that and just be present. And that goes from, not spending too much time in your phone on your device, and also really listening when you're in a conversation. Don't be that person always searching for the next, speaker to connect with. Make sure you're, really listening and being present, because it's not only about, it's not just about the quantity of people you meet, right? It's about the quality conversations that you'll have. And of course, with that, be thoughtful. Our speakers have taken their Saturday to spend with you, so really think about the questions that you'll be asking them. Don't ask them questions you can get the answers to on the internet, right? So ask them about their personal experiences, their personal opinions, things that are exciting to them. And so be thoughtful about your questions. Asking questions at these events is one of the best ways to stand out. We will be taking Q&A at the end of this keynote as well, so hopefully we'll have 2 or 3 people who have really great questions. And also just make sure that everyone has time with the speakers too. We'll be sending you lots of emails about how to follow up with all the people you meet today, and we'll also have time during the opportunity mixer between 12:30 and 2:30 for you to meet the speakers in another environment, meet each other as well. And of course, be excited. Again, you guys are the lucky ones. This is a small, pretty intimate event. It may seem big, but we've done conferences of up to 500 people. And so take advantage of being here, get excited. Do take a couple of minutes to send a tweet if you haven't yet. These are just a few of the folks who are participating today. These are our 2 keynotes at the top. If you're lazy, I wrote a tweet for you. Or if you've never been on Twitter before, or you could, Instagram as well. This would be a good slide to take a picture of, actually, if you guys want to do that really quick. But before things get crazy, because the day will kick off shortly, and it will be busy, it will be fast-paced. So if you want to take the time now, before we really get started, to send out that tweet, let the world know you're here, you're proactive, and you're ready to network, you can do that. So now I'm excited to introduce to you Susan Bauer, who is the Senior Director of Experiential Education and Career Management here at LIM College. So huge round of applause to Susan.
I feel like I don't have much to say about networking and career preparation with an intro like the one Emily just gave. This is the 2nd year that we've had this event at the college. The reason being is because it was so incredibly successful last year. I am the Senior Director of Experiential Education and Career Management, so I'm curious to know how many people in the room attend LIM College. Great. How many are in the undergraduate population? And how many are in the graduate population? Wow, fantastic. So who's here from another school? Where are you from? Fordham. Any other Fordham students here? Okay, who's here from a different school? Where are you from? FIT. You're from FIT, fantastic. Any other FIT students? Couple in the back? Okay, great. Well, there are enough people here from FindSpark to help you navigate the day. If there are any LIM college students here who have any questions about any of the speakers, any of their internship programs, any way to help connect the dots, I'm here today. Anyone can approach me and speak with me. Is Erin in the room? In the back is Erin Rovner. She's our Associate Director of Employer Management. She can also assist with any connecting the dots type questions between your programs and curriculum and next steps and anyone who's here today. Is Miss Mooney in the room? Okay, we have another career advisor here. Her name's Jessica, and the LIM students rather will know who she is. And she can assist with any career-related questions as well. Is everyone super excited to be here? Yeah. Good. We're so excited to host. Our school does focus on the business side of the fashion industry. So you will see a lot of professionals here today that work on the business side, but FindSpark also brings in the creative talent as well. So it's a really nice mix, because without both the creative side and the business side, it would be really hard to make your company work. So without further ado, I'm going to give it back to Emily. Thank you all for coming. We're very excited to open our doors and host you today, and I hope you have a wonderful time.
Great. So I'm very excited to now welcome our opening keynote speaker. Mir is the Director of Operations at Walker & Company, and they are a super innovative new startup founded by Tristan Walker, who used to be at Foursquare, who I was telling Mir, I actually, in my early career, had some conversations with him when I was at Barnes & Noble, trying to get them to make a Barnes & Noble badge on Foursquare. But since then, he's gone on to create this amazing company where their focus is to make it as easy as possible for consumers to develop health and beauty products. And Mir has been at a lot of different startups, has a really interesting background, and he's going to share his story and kick off the day with some great inspirational advice. So welcome, Mir.
And also talk about my story a little bit and how I ended up here. My story is going to be based around looking for sort of like my dream job, but the way to get there, the road to get there. It's like you piece things together and finally take all those experiences and end up in hopefully a dream job. So Walker & Company, our goal at Walker & Company is to make health and beauty simple for people of color. What that means is, so we are very focused on issues that affect the community, right? So like in people of color, they have this issue with shaving, for example, right? They have razor bump issues. It's called pseudofolliculitis barbae. Whoever can spell that wins a prize. And our first product is called Bevel, which is a three-step shaving solution which takes care of the razor bump issue. So it's not like a mass market product, which like some other companies make, and it's like, here's a shaving solution and everybody uses it, right? We customize it for the community's needs. So I run operations there, which is day-to-day supply chain, manufacturing, and also helping out finance and anything else, because startups is like you wear many hats. All right, so going to my story. My background is in material science, engineering, and chemistry. I started out in Stony Brook University out on Long Island. I don't know if there's any Stony Brook people out here. Woo! One person. All right, we'll connect later. Talk about Stony Brook. So started at Stony Brook, and a pre-story before that. When I was in high school, I was doing accounting, I was doing chemistry and everything else, and chemistry was like my least favorite subject, right? And my other options were getting into finance and accounting, and I went down that path in high school. This is sort of the British system of education, so I went through the O-level IGCSE, which is a little different than high school and APIs here. So eventually what happened was I went to finance, accounting, didn't like it either. I'm like, okay, I gotta do something. Had a great chemistry teacher, learned a lot about chemistry, and I was like, I love chemistry, right? Got good grades, graduated, ended up in Stony Brook University in the engineering and chemistry program. First class I took, and I'm like, it was chemistry like 101, literally. And I was like, I don't know if I made the right decision. Stuck with it though. I think I called back home once or twice, and I was like, my dad's an accountant. And I was like, Dad, I think I'm gonna change my major back to like accounting. And he goes, don't you dare do that. He was an accountant, and he's always been like, it's not very exciting, and you would probably be a lot better doing something like engineering. So I stuck with it. 3-4 years in, literally doing engineering chemistry. And the reason I'm telling you this is like the things that I've learned along the way. Doing engineering chemistry, there was one class where we had like a 6-hour lab once a week, right? So literally in a lab with our coats on, goggles, Bunsen burners, all the fun stuff. Wow, those are the days. So we're standing there 6 hours, and me and my friend after 6 hours come down in the chemistry building, and we're walking by this board with like all the chemistry alumni and the professors. They're all in their white coats, they've got their goggles in the pocket, and we're like, we just look at each other like, do we want to do this for the rest of our life? Like, we just came out of a 6-hour lab. Do we really want to do this? And literally both of us were like, we need to do something that we're passionate about. And so what ended up happening, went back to my dorm, thought about what I was doing, engineering chemistry, liked it, but once you hit like, I don't know who's taking chemistry here, once you hit like organic chemistry, you're like, you start questioning everything, right? You're like, is this really the best thing? So go home, I love technology. Back then when I was in college, the first iPod had just come out, I think. So it was like iPod, they had the creative MP3 players, and I always loved sort of technology, so I was like, I want to make things. So I'm like, what can I learn? Like, I was already a junior at this point, so third year in college. I'm like, what can I do that will lead me into a career where I make things? And so there was mechanical engineering. There was physics major, but that's really not, that's more theory than application. And eventually what happened was, there was a major called engineering science, so the track in material science. And I was like, you learn manufacturing techniques, and you learn all these different cool things of, how to machine metal, how to make stuff out of wood. And I was like, that's the major I want. Luckily, I had met all the prereqs doing engineering chemistry. I did spend an extra year, completed engineering chemistry because there was like a few credits left, but also ended up doing engineering science. So, two things in my college career that I did were follow my passion. Number two, I know this, you guys are all probably interning soon, have interned sometime in your life. I interned for a professor out there, which I would highly recommend. Let me grab some water, sorry. I would highly recommend. I worked my last year with my engineering science professor under a program with the National Science Foundation. And people always talk, and I don't know if you guys read the blog, but I sent Christine this the other day, was people talk about how success comes when preparation meets luck, right? And what people don't realize is like luck is something which is truly not lucky. Like you put yourself into positions where that luck is sort of luck strikes, right? Like if I hadn't changed engineering science, I would have never met my professor. And when I worked for him, what he did one day was he goes, you're graduating soon, and this is back in the days, right? When we had like Monster.com and Hot Jobs had just come out. Are they still around? But so I come into the office one day and he goes, I've applied for a job for you. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks. Like, what did you do? He goes, here's a newspaper clipping. Not kidding. We used to apply with newspapers. And I sent your resume over to this company in Connecticut. I had moved, my background, so I'm originally from Pakistan, lived in Saudi Arabia, moved to New York for college. So I'm in Long Island right now, he says Connecticut, and I'm thinking, wow, this place must be really far. This is like pre-Google Maps, right? So luckily what happened was that literally 2 days later I got a call from the company, I was just graduating, and they're like, yeah, we'd love for you to come in for an interview. Literally went there, first, there was like 4 interviews that day in the same place, and the next day they'd given me an offer, right? So my luck in this story was that I put myself in a position where taking as many opportunities as I can to, for my professor then to go ahead and like apply for me. Like that was pure luck, but at the same time it was like, if I wasn't in that position, if I hadn't availed that opportunity, I wouldn't have been there. So, end up at ASML, and I'm gonna go through my story just because sort of the small lessons I learned, right? So I go to ASML, and it's this company that makes machines that prints microchips. So you can imagine their customers were like Intel and Samsung. So iPhones get skinnier and skinnier because we were making machines that were capable of making smaller microchips every year. Simply put, it's a lot more complicated than that. But so I was there for 5 years. In the beginning, I started off in a research field. So it was more so doing R&D stuff on machines. So I wasn't making the product, but I was like testing the reliability of machines. And it was great. It was a lot of good experience. And what you'll learn from a big company is that when you want to start up, right? A lot of people are starting their first company, or you're working in a new position where a lot of people haven't come from big companies. You're able to take sort of what you learn in big companies, structures, processes, and apply it to startups. So it was great for learning all that. So I started R&D, and I was like, I'm still not making stuff. Like, I'm still in a lab, I'm still in a clean room. Super annoying, by the way, you have to put like a clean room suit on. It takes like 18 minutes. Booty, like boots and the goggles. So eventually what happened was I'm like, I need to work in manufacturing. So this is the part where you want to try and set yourself up for what you want to do. And again, luck strikes. What happens, we went through a restructure, and our group was put in the manufacturing department, which is pure luck. But the project I was working on with R&D, I kept vouching and saying, I know this product the most because I've been doing the R&D on this. I want to lead the manufacturing on this, right? And sure enough, a few months later, I was given the project to manufacture the stuff we were working on in a sort of an R&D environment, and it was a new product. So I learned manufacturing processes, and I was finally like, yes, I'm making something, right? So I got to manufacturing, and 5 to 6 years later, I'm like, so the next thing is like, I love change. Like I can't keep doing, and I feel like I don't say our generation, but like a lot of us now aren't, the type in the position where back in the days people used to be like at a company for 30 years, right? And that was like what they wanted to do. They had like a good retirement plan. We're on like I guess I call it like it's almost like career ADD, right? Like you just want to keep jumping to different things, and when you're young, you can do that. So I was like, I've been in this company for 5 to 6 years, and I don't want to be stuck here because if I'm here for 10 years, like any other company I go to will be in this industry. Like no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, you have great experience in semiconductors. Why don't you come over and make shaving kits for us? All right. So looked hard. LinkedIn, and this is where social media comes in. LinkedIn is a great resource, right? So like I said, back in the days, my first job was applied through a newspaper clipping, and then like periodically I was applying on Monster.com and Yahoo Jobs, and the thing with those is like you would apply. I don't know how many. Raise your hands if you've applied on Career Builder or like some of the older websites, right? So what you could get is you send your resume. A lot of people might have heard back, but like I didn't hear back anything, right? And you don't like, it's just your resume is gone and you don't even know if it's sent or not, but it's like, sure, it's gone and you never hear back. LinkedIn was awesome because, or still is, because you go to the job posting, you see who posted it, right? The recruiter, the HR lead, talent lead, and you can then ping them and be like, hey, I applied for this job and I'm just messaging you because I'm super interested, super excited. It's almost like a pre-interview, right? You're showing initiative to reach out to this person. So look for jobs on LinkedIn, finally got one. Wasn't a startup, because startups back then were like more software web-based. It was like Facebook and Twitter. I'm like, I know how to make things, I don't code. So I'm gonna take this job regardless. It's not a startup, I'm gonna take this job regardless because it's gonna lead me to I'll learn from it. The worst thing that can ever happen from a bad situation is you learn from it, right? So it's education anyways. So I take this job, I was there for close to 2 years, and it was a precious metals company, so we were making like stent wire for the medical industry, we were making some of the metals and alloys like platinum gold for the jewelry industry, and what I noticed right away, and this is like key lesson for myself, and was that you need to identify gaps and try to fill those in, right? So I got there, I was an engineer, and I'm coming from a big company where like there was people for every single sort of function, right? So there was like material planners, logistics guys, engineers, and you had like everybody do something very specific. So in this company, I come in and I'm like, okay, I'm an engineer, where's a material planner? They're like, we don't have one. Where's the process engineer? We don't have one. And I'm like, okay. So you could either take that in a situation where it's like, okay, this is a negative thing, or you could be like, this is an awesome opportunity for me to sort of make my mark on this position and be like, okay, you don't have it, but you know what? I can do process engineering because I came from a manufacturing background. I can do material planning because I worked the material planner in my previous position. I can use those sort of that knowledge and apply it here. So I ended up leading the production team, the manufacturing team there within 2 years, and then started helping them hire people. Because I was like, we need a material planner, we need a process engineer, we need mechanical engineers. So I built out their team for them. And right away I'm thinking one day, I'm like, wow, I came from a company where I was doing one thing all the time to now like, I've actually sort of built a company, right? Because I led the hiring of like 5 people, and they're all still there, which is great, I'm not. But it made that company a lot better in their processes, and they really wanted somebody to help them with that. So all of a sudden now, like on my resume, I'm like, I can put literally like, take this experience and you're like, I helped build a team, right? Which was not a goal of mine when I started there, but it turned into like an opening spot I could walk into and just take that opportunity. So while I was there, startup, right? So Warby Parker was getting big then. There might be some people here from Warby Parker. And I reached out to a couple people on LinkedIn. I didn't apply for the position. I think they had a VP of supply chain or some kind of position open like 4 years ago. But I'm really big on networking, so even though I didn't apply to it, I reached out to some people on LinkedIn who were really helpful on Warby Parker, and they were like, sure, we'd love to meet you. So I went to their office, I met them, they knew who I was. It didn't work out because VP supply chain was sort of a senior position back then as well. But there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, right? But whatever it was, it didn't work out. But at least like I networked with them. I had them on LinkedIn. Every time they posted positions, I saw them on LinkedIn. I think I had 3 or 4 people from there. And now this is where luck strikes again. So I'm sitting at this company with precious metals, and because my LinkedIn profile's updated, because I had sort of the package where it's like, yeah, I'm looking for a position, a recruiter reaches out to me and literally keyword like just I read them like this is for me. Like it was like there's a hardware startup in New York City looking for a supply chain guy, right? And I'm like, this is amazing. Again, it looks like luck, but it's like that person would not reach out to me if I hadn't kept my profile updated, I hadn't put my experiences on there. So sure, it's luck, but he found me because I posted those things. Interesting. So supply chain is where you're in a company and you're managing your suppliers to give you products, from all the way from component level to getting it manufactured to getting in the warehouse, and from the warehouse to customers. Something I didn't have experience in. But I applied to it because I said to them, and the recruiter that posted it was an external recruiter, not a company HR person. So it was a company called Little Bits. You guys might have heard of it. You've seen some ads in the trains and subways these days. So I applied to it, went to the recruiting office, and they're talking about supply chain. I'm like, look, I've never done supply chain before, but what I have done is I've been on the customer side, and I know how like my customers interacted with me and what they're looking for. Like they're looking to make sure I provide them stuff at good quality, good cost, good price, right timing. And they were like, yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, but we don't really think you're experienced enough for this position. And I said, I convinced them. I was like, agreed, but I still think you should send this resume on, right? Like, I feel like I can do this position. And they're like, okay, we'll forward the resume to the hiring lead, who at that time was the VP of operations at Little Bits, Jane Hoffer. So they send the resume, speak to Jane on the phone, convinced her somehow that I was capable, and she was really open to it, and she wanted somebody who could sort of grow into the role as well. Went to the Little Bits office, interviewed there, everything went well. Sure enough, like a few days later, I have a job offer. And I've been really lucky with this. Like I think interviewing skills are really important, and also resume writing skills, where a lot of resumes that I get now when I'm trying to hire people, a lot of people just put down sort of like, I did this because I did this, and then I did this, right? It's very like task-oriented versus what I call achievement-oriented. Like you want to make sure you put yourselves in positions where you can sort of quantify what you do. So like I led cost reduction 30%, right? Some way. So like people read this and like, okay, this is like directly relatable to our situation. We want to reduce cost of our product, and this person can help us do that, rather than saying, I did cost reduction, right? It's like the 30% you take it out and people are just like, okay, what does that really mean? How did you do it? And people always just write what they did, not how they do it, which is really, really, really important. So I worked a little bit, and by this time you guys are thinking, wow, I changed jobs quite a bit. But I like change, and when the right opportunity comes, I feel like people should always be on the lookout for what's best for them as well. So I was a Little Bit for nearly 2 years, and doing great, traveling. Supply chain was like, we had suppliers all over the place. I was traveling to China once a month, which I loved. My wife, I'm not sure if she did, but got to travel a lot. I love traveling. I think I've got a pretty good perspective on different cultures, growing up in Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, coming from Pakistan, traveling to China, and I sort of like the different cultures. So now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I'm helping the company in this position, but what can I now do to also sort of build my skills and my portfolio? So now I'm like, okay, you should always be thinking about like, what can I add to my resume? What can I add to my experience? So all of a sudden I'm working with these manufacturers out in different countries, and I'm like, I'm visiting factories, I'm making sure they're capable of doing things, I'm making sure that they're delivering product on time, and now I've sort of added this to my resume and my experience. So doing supply chain, I love doing supply chain, I love manufacturing, like I said. So I was making things, and it was amazing because now I wasn't making things that were just used in like big machines in a factory, but I was getting people who said, oh look, I got the latest Little Bits module, and it was like, oh, I was there to make that first one when it came off the press, and it was very sort of fulfilling to see like people using the product, which is a great product. So I was there for about 2 years, and then again, Tristan Walker, who is also from Stony Brook University, had started a company called Walker & Co Brands. And it seemed exciting to me, but at the same time, I was really happy where I was. His wife and I actually went to school together, like we knew each other from school. So she had written something on Facebook and was like, hey, we're launching Bevel, which is a shaving product. And I sort of just, messaged her and said, congratulations, by the way, if, it's a new company, if you guys ever need any help, or Tristan needs any help or advice in supply chain, I'd love to help. Because I didn't know how many people they had, but they were just launching. So she's like, oh, that'd be really cool. And she put me in touch with Tristan. So we talked, and, for a few months, just like once or twice, we spoke. And one day, literally, I'm like walking out of work, and I get a text message, and it's a link to a job from Tristan. And it says, interested, question mark. And I'm like, luck strikes again, right? But you put yourself in those positions. So I look at the position and I'm like, this sounds really exciting, but there's no way I'm leaving the greatest city in the world, because our company's based out of Palo Alto, California, and I know Emily feels the same way. So he was open enough to, we had a couple employees here, so he was like, oh no, we could do New York, and it sort of worked out. So what really excited me about this project, or this company, sorry, was, at least for the position I'm in, was we're a small company, right? So you get to do a lot of things in a small company. Like a lot of people come from a big company to a small company, and they're just used to sort of like doing one thing, and that ends up being sort of hard for them to understand that, like in a startup, if you're 10 people and you have 30 things to do, you have to do 3 things each. And what I liked about this position specifically was now I'm not just working on supply chain, which is like ensuring things get made, but I'm working on product development, which is, to me, was a big key part of this position. So just working on a new product, right? Not just getting it manufactured, but thinking of problems and how we can solve them, and then being in the process of designing before it hits supply chain work. And that's what I get to do here. So now all of a sudden I've got like, supply chain experience, I've got product development experience, I've got logistics experience, and I didn't tell you this, but at ASML, my first company, I was trying to get more into the finance side of things and trying to learn of like how are projects mapped out from a resource planning standpoint, right? Like ERP systems, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it's like enterprise resource planning. It's like this project will cost $80 to do, so we have to sell something at $200. And I was getting really interested in the finance side, so all of a sudden I have finance experience, and like I go into a startup and I'm like, I can wear those multiple hats because I've gone through finance, supply chain, product development, and it's just skills I've sort of acquired over time, and mix them up, and have been able to sort of be in a position where I do love my job. And I go, like, when I was first starting out, and this is a key thing, when I was first starting out, it was sort of like I'd be at work, and eventually after a few years it was sort of like, when is it going to be 5 o'clock? Like, I just want to go home, right? And that's when like you're not doing something you're passionate about, because a lot of people are just like, 9 to 5 is work, and after that is whatever I want to do. When you will know when you're passionate about something when, even after hours, you don't mind getting on that laptop. Not that you have to, but you're like, have a vested interest. Like, I'm making this product, I own this in the startup, I want to do this. And that's when you'll know like you're passionate about something, is when like work hours, home hours, whatever it is, you feel okay, working. Not that you guys should put in 20 hours, but it's just a sign, right? Versus, it's 5 o'clock, can I go home now? And a lot of people go through that. Quick story of how I got from where I came from. How much time do we have? A few minutes? Okay, good. I was worried I'd be done like in 2 minutes. So the other things that sort of, apart from the skills and how I acquired skills, what keeps me going are, or at least I think I have really good focus, and I keep myself motivated, and I feel like that's a really key thing to be resilient and find ways to motivate yourself. And like a lot of times what happens, for example, if some of you play sports, how many of you play sports? Raise your hands. Awesome, at least half the room, and a kinda. But you play sports, and what happens is you're getting competitive, and somebody elbows you, and you're just like, I'm gonna dunk on you now, right? Not me, but you get really passionate about it, right? So something happens that motivates you to now sort of do better at your sport and get motivated. And I try to find inspiration in everything. Like somebody could be like, say anything to me, like it could be a distraction, but I'm like, you know what, just because that person said something, I'm gonna prove and do it better, or do it my way, or do it something. So like, try to find motivation wherever you can. Motivation is awesome. What else can I play, guys? Actually, you know what? Since we have a few minutes left, I'll open it to questions. Yeah, so if anybody has any questions. Sure.
What I want to I'm Verma and I'm doing Masters in Fashion Marketing from LM College.
Cool.
And what I want to ask you is, you said you worked in bigger companies, you learned so much, and then you moved to a startup.
Sure.
And you're liking it here. So I want to ask you, do you feel like that you want to go back to bigger company again, maybe in future, or maybe 5 years down the line when you feel really bored or what that? Because the bigger challenge I feel which comes with the smaller companies, the shortage of workforce. You got to do a lot of multiple functioning
Right.
on your own, and that kind of probably gives you a feeling of doing so much.
Sure.
Yeah, and now you're too worked up and you want to probably get out of it.
Right.
So I think it's a good idea to move to another big company again.
Yeah, I think it's a personal preference, right? For me, I just feel like I can never go back to a big company. There's a rush that comes with working in a startup and like starting in a company that had 5, 10, 15 people and now has 80, 90, 100, 200. And just being like, I've built this from the ground up. So I sort of have that, without being an entrepreneur yet, I have like an entrepreneurial spirit where I'm like, I love building things from the ground up. And so for me, no. But like I see a lot of people who go back from startups to big companies for different reasons. But I think I'm pretty stuck in what I enjoy right now, and really it is just startups and small groups and trying to make a small company grow. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Sure. We need to start up for mic delivery. See, I'm always thinking of things.
Hi, I'm Giselle, and I was wondering what a typical day looks like. Well, it doesn't sound like you have a set schedule because it's a startup. And then what are the challenges that come with being in a small startup environment?
Sure. What does every day look like? Every day looks different. Which day do you want to know about? So for me, mostly what it looks like is my day starts, depending on how you look at it, either it ends late or starts early. But I work with a lot of overseas teams, right? So like in China, in Europe, and whatever. So I'll make sure that my day starts with sending out a couple of emails because I want updates when they're waking up. To make sure that when I wake up, my inbox is full of fun stuff to read. So that's how it starts. You get into work, and really, you have sort of like your goals and your tasks, right? But at the same time, you have your teammates who are working on something, and this happens in every startup, and they're not, field experts. They're not experts in that field. And I'm not an expert in that field, but we sort of just get together and try to solve a problem in the meanwhile while we hire somebody, or when we're in a position to hire somebody who can do that specific sort of task. A lot of times accounting, finance, supply chain go hand in hand. So always working on how do you reduce costs, right? So my typical day could be me looking at different suppliers and manufacturers to see if we can get better quality product quicker, and at a better price for us, so we can increase margins. Margins are always small in the startup because you're building things in small volumes. So if you build 5,000 something, it'll be super expensive. If you build 1 million, you're in a better price range. So I'm like just negotiating, helping the company grow infrastructure-wise with their financial systems as well. And you just contribute wherever you can. Any more questions? Sure. Mic delivery.
Hi, my name is Rashawn Dickinson. I'm a graduate student at LAM College. What I want to know is, do you still use some of your undergraduate skills for the position that you have now, and if so, what specifically?
That's a great question, because that was one of the things I was going to talk about. Somewhat. I was using more of that in sort of my R&D position, right? So I went to school for material science and started learning about material strength and doing pull tests. So that's something I learned in my internships and in my college. And then when I started my first job, it was literally directly relatable because it was in a position where, here, Mir, we have these samples. You know how to break them and find out like what load they break under. So for sure, like in that sense. But what I think college gives you, rather than just direct skills that are transferable, which it does, but it's sort of the way of thinking, right? And I always feel like I approach things from a very engineering perspective, even if it's not work, but it just puts you in a mindset. So my wife could probably also be testament to this. Is like we're at home, and I'm like, we really need to make our lives lean, right? And lean is a manufacturing principle. It's like, let's declutter things, let's make things more efficient. So yeah, I think there's some things that you do use, like specifically if you're doing like finance or accounting, and you went to accounting and finance school, you're using that. In my position, there really isn't many programs that do supply chain and logistics, right? I mean, there's some that you learn a course here and there, but there aren't really majors, so it depends on your major too. All right, that's time. Thank you.